Good morning. My name is Jeff Marks, and I have the incredible honor of introducing our presidential address this morning for our 2017-2018 presidential speech. Dan Jones. Daniel B. Jones has been an active member of SAGES above and beyond anything that you can imagine. He joined SAGES in 1994 and was appointed to the Board of Governors in 2003, such a long time ago. He has served as our first vice president before becoming our president-elect 2 years ago. He previously served as the chair of the FUSE Committee, which you saw a wonderful videotape of. The Curriculum Task Force was his innovation, the Educational Researchers, and the Quality Outcomes and Safety Committee. He has been a member of the Continuing Education Committee, as well as the FLS, Bariatrics, Development, Publication, Program, Robotics, and Finance and Assessment Committees. A lot of hard work. He also was the program chair for our 2012 annual meeting. Dr. Jones was the recipient of the SAGES Young Investigator Award in 2001. Again, it seems like so long ago. And in 2000, no, don't laugh, it wasn't that long. And in 2012, Dr. Jones received the SAGES Excellence in Medical Leadership Award. His other contributions outside of SAGES, as many of us have a home outside of SAGES, have been incredible. He established the ACS Accreditation of Education Institute as his home institution, the ACS Accreditation for Bariatric Surgery Center Network, the ACS ASMBS Accreditation of Bariatric Surgeons, the ACS ASC Skills-Based Simulation, and numerous other things at his home institution. His research funding is unbelievable. He has included over $5 million in industry support for education and training, and approximately $15 million in NIH R01 granting Dan has been involved with. An incredible history of education and research. But more importantly, let's look back a little bit. Okay. It's always nice to throw little cute pictures up when we talk about people, because we don't know who they were in the past. But Dan was born in Nuremberg, Germany, and while his dad was stationed overseas, his father, Wendell Jones, was originally from Harrison, Arkansas, and was a career Army individual who eventually attained the level of full colonel after 2 tours in Vietnam and unfortunately passed away in 2013. Dan's mother, who is wonderfully here with us today, her name is Grace, and she's from Holyoke, but now living in Nevada. And her and Wendell, while working on the JFK presidential address, they met. And interestingly, for those that know Dan and maybe some of his more conservative political stands, the idea of he came from a JFK, kind of presidential, campaign, is a wonderful thing. His parents were married for 50 years, and Grace, as I said, currently lives in Henderson, Nevada. Dan's family is also a very important part of his life. Dan's younger brother, Brian, teaches finance at the University of Tennessee, and his sister, Kimberly, is an orthodontist in Pennsylvania. We also want to recognize Dan's aunt and uncle who are here today, and here with Grace, Nancy and Bud Bigelow. And it's wonderful to have you here. Dan will say that he's lived in many, many places throughout his life. 26 addresses to be exact, but we're not really sure that number is true. We don't have all of the postage stamps to prove that, but a lot of these places are all around the world. Lived in Germany, lived in Massachusetts, Virginia, Florida, Kansas, New York, and many other places. Dan eventually went on to go to high school here in the United States at a school in Connecticut. And interestingly, the reason he did this is he read about in a Time magazine the idea of going to prep school was a great idea as opposed to going back to Germany. And so we were lucky to have Dan finish his education here in the United States. And then we move along into Dan's life. So Dan and Stephanie, what a wonderful couple. Dan and Stephanie met as undergrads at Cornell in a German literature class. And some of those were at the presidential event last night, heard a little bit about this story. But Dan was a senior and Steph was a sophomore at the time. And in an incredibly sly move, Dan said to Stephanie, "Can you tutor me? I need some help in my German class." And so meanwhile, the story goes even further to say that Dan it's not cribs notes, it's not cheating, but Dan basically was using the English translations of the German literature to get a better grade than Stephanie, even though she was tutoring him. And Dan, taking advantage of all the tools available, I think is something that's important, and that's fine. So here we are now, and it's always fun to look back in our past and see what people looked like before, and I think Dan and Stephanie, you are a beautiful picture of love and happiness. And after graduation, Dan was headed off to medical school at Tulane, and at the last moment, he made it off the wait list at Cornell, and fortunately, the idea of a long-distance relationship didn't have to occur, and Dan proposed eventually to Stephanie, and they were married after his third year and after her first year of medical school. Following this, Dan had a wonderful career as a student and as a resident. He matched into the surgery program at Washington University with Sam Wells, who was chair at the time, and the surgery department also managed to engineer Stephanie's transfer, so they were able to be together for all that time. And then, as with all of us, life keeps moving forward. Their son Ryan was born in 1994 during Dan's time in the lab working under Nat Soper and Jim Fleshman. After they both finished their training, they were off to somewhere else, okay? They finished at WashU, and they moved off to Dallas to the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center. Dan had been recruited by Tom Shires at the time as one of his mentors at medical school, who was then chief at the UT Southwestern campus. The day after they arrived, however, interestingly, Tom Shires announced his departure. I think most of us, losing a mentor that quickly, would have obviously been taken aback. And Stephanie was a little bit concerned, but Dan knew that he could take advantage of other things. And so other people there, Dr. Carrico, stepped in, and Dan was able to work with Dr. Carrico's support, Jim Carrico. He was able to secure funding and able to continue his work in simulation at UT Southwestern. He and Dave Provost joined forces to expand the bariatric institution and doing laparoscopic gastric bypass at at UT Southwestern, and began teaching in Texas and driving forward the idea of education. And in Dallas, also something else happened to Dan and Stephanie. They had twins, all right? For those of you that have one at a time, it's an amazing feat. Having two at a time is even more wonderful. And twins Leah and Kara were born, and they raised their children until 2003 while they were there in Dallas. And here we are seeing pictures of Dan, obviously, and his family, which is an important part. We don't see the family behind the family at SAGES. And in 2003, Dan was recruited to the BI in Boston, a wonderful step for him. And although initially they had a very small skills lab, Dan knew the opportunities were there for him. And he was able to expand it into a full-blown simulation and skills center. He also expanded the bariatric program, something that has been deep in his heart, and became the first Massachusetts program to attain the granted ACS accreditation. Well, Dan loved Boston, right? And so these are many of his loves in Boston, and they've been there now for 15 years. And here you can see Dan, obviously, enjoying many of the things in Boston, his awards for winning, obviously, many baseball and football things, and working with his team on his cheerleading. But what it comes down to is, though, is that there are more things important to us in life, and these things obviously are vital to him. But children obviously moved along, and Ryan eventually graduated from Cornell, and like his parents, they moved on, and so did his daughters, okay? And both daughters were freshmen at Columbia as well, and one now at maybe going into medical school, all right? And that's hard to know. We always want our legacy to move on, but we'll see how that works sometimes. And so here we can see Dan with his two daughters, okay, who both have been very successful athletes, just like Dan and Stephanie, and moving forward in their education. We have a couple little voices here to hear for you for Dan.
Hi, Dad. So sorry I couldn't be there today, but I'm extremely proud of you and your accomplishments. It's amazing to see how you've built up your career, and occasionally for me to watch you do it. I remember being at the same meeting when I was 8, playing monkey ball and bean drop in the kids' Top Gun competition. To have the fastest time took drive and determination, which are two qualities that you have instilled in me. Through not only your professional achievements, but also through your continuous support in my academic pursuits and endless cheering on the lacrosse sidelines. I wish I could be there, but I can't wait to see you when I get home.
Hi, Dad. I hope you're having fun. So, I've been asked to share a memory about a time that we've enjoyed together, and the first one that popped in my head was Paris, when Kara and I were in middle school. And I just remember we had 3 days to do all the touristy things possible. So, right off the bat, we got off the plane, got on like one of those big red buses, and we went to the Louvre and all the museums, even though you don't like museums, and we got to eat all the croissants, and it was really, really fun. And then part of that, which made it such an awesome trip, was Kara and I got to go to the meeting with you. And I mean, the meeting that inspired the trip, of course. And I think one of the proudest moments I've had of you was in that meeting and all the meetings after, when you're in this room with all these fancy looking people dressed up and they're listening to you and they respect you and they just look up to you the same way Kara and I do. And I think that's just really awesome. And I hope the rest of your trip and the rest of this meeting is awesome. You don't get roasted too bad, but love you. Bye.
I was asked to make a quick video about why I'm proud of my dad, and the first thing that comes to mind is that he worked up the courage to ask my mom for help in German class back in college. I wouldn't be around here today if it weren't for that, so thank you, Dad. And the second thing that I'm proud of is just growing up around his hard work and this unrelentless effort to get things done. It's been so much fun to grow up and see everything that he's accomplished. And I know this is the classic line parents tell their kids, but as a kid to his dad, I'm really looking forward to see what more he accomplishes over the next 10 years.
That's wonderful, and I know Dan would have loved to have the kids here today, but they're all so busy in their lives, and we just wanted to get a little voice and obviously love from them to him. Now, many of you know Dan as an incredible man of action here, obviously defying gravity, defying snow with sleeveless shirts, and obviously taking his ATV throughout the areas and tackling the lions that are all around us. But he also is a man of leisure, a man of fun, and also someone who knows how to enjoy things in life, such as family. Now, you would say, with all of Dan's prior achievements and all the great things, that he'd have a very big head, and we don't look at Dan that way, because he's been an incredible leader for all of us. And the way we look at Dan is his leadership skills are things that we obviously look for, just similar to his being able to be president here. And as the captain of our ship, we want to thank Dan for steering us through so many choppy and warm waters, leading us on to the new horizon, and we're very thankful. And here we are now to introduce Dan Jones as our president from 2017 to 2018.
Wow. So it's better to be lucky. Next slide. All of you probably are aware that today is Friday the 13th. The origins of this superstition originate back 2 centuries to Jesus and the Last Supper and his 13 disciples. The next day, on a Friday, he was crucified. The word paraskiva decatriaphobia describes those of us who on Friday the 13th get superstitious about all the things that could go wrong. Some of you may worry about sitting on some gum, being splashed by a puddle, getting a flat tire. For me, on this Friday the 13th, I'm worried about the projector going on the blink, the teleprompter malfunctioning, or getting tongue-tied. I'll try to put that aside, and I'll focus instead this talk on the impact of preparation, opportunity, and luck when training surgeons, building teams, and leading organizations. One of the most transformative experiences in my life occurred as a third-year medical student. I was called on to place a radial line in my HIV-positive patient in the burn unit. I practiced placing arterial lines many times. I felt very comfortable doing the procedure. For this operation, I gowned, I double-gloved, I wore a mask. And after accessing the radial artery, I placed my hollow bore needle off to the side on a table. Unbeknownst to me, the supervising intern moved the needle and syringe onto the drapes. As luck would have it, when I closed the drapes, I had a needle stick with a hollow bore needle with the injection of blood. The injury was not about practice or judgment. It was not caused by lack of supervision. And for many years, I thought this was the unluckiest day of my life. As I look back, maybe, just maybe, this was the luckiest day of my life. The utility room had bleach to submerge my hand. The literature review revealed that AZT given soon after injection, at least in rodents, prevented transmission. I was granted compassionate use of AZT, and it worked. Sometimes I just need to remember how lucky I really am. Afterwards, life was a little richer, relationships more meaningful, and my legacy mattered. In my academic career, I've been very interested in skills training, safety, and good communication. With my patients who are scared about a test or fear of dying, when I think back to that event, I'm a little more compassionate, have a little more empathy. So, it's better to be lucky than good. This quote is attributed to the New York Yankee baseball player, Lefty Gomez. However, in Boston, we aspire to be both lucky and good, and therefore we have many more winning teams. The Boston Red Sox boast 8 World Series championships. What makes a great baseball player might give us some insight into what makes a great surgeon. Michael Lowell, one of the most valuable players of the 2007 World Series, a 4-time All-Star, and a National League Golden Glove. I got a chance to talk to him. Lowell thinks that there are 4 things that make one at least a great ball player: passion, work ethic, talent, and luck. His passion developed from a father who was a ball player. His dad was a Little League coach who made the game fun. Lowell had a work ethic. In college, it was weight training for 90 minutes a day, 3 hours of practice, always putting in 110% effort. When he became a professional, he arrived early, practiced batting, reviewed the videotapes. He appreciated talent, and when he saw talent, it inspired him to work even harder. He was lucky to live in Miami, where he could play baseball all year round. His father pitched 50 balls to him every day. He was lucky that his passion aligned with his talent. So, the Lowell list for becoming a great ball player, I think, is also applicable to training great surgeons: passion, work ethic, talent, and luck. So why do some people have all the luck? In his book, The Luck Factor, Richard Weissman shows that lucky people generate good fortune via 4 principles. They are skilled at creating and noticing chance opportunities. They make lucky decisions by listening to their intuition. They create self-fulfilling prophecies via positive expectations. And they adopt a resilient attitude that transforms bad luck into good. Now, nevertheless, my NISQIP nurse says, I don't want my surgeon to be lucky. I want her to be proficient. Laparoscopic cholecystectomy was just taking off in 1990 when I graduated from medical school. As evident by the high bile duct injury rate at the time, not everyone was proficient with laparoscopy. And yet, many surgeons quickly adopted laparoscopy for more difficult operations: the roux-en-y gastric bypass, aortic bypass, Whipple's. During my residency, we began practicing MIS skills in video box trainers, partial task trainers, and virtual workbenches. But it was SAGES who was on the forefront with the fundamentals of laparoscopic surgery. The exam took more than beginner's luck to pass, and FLS soon became the validated benchmark for cognitive and technical competency. Today, FLS is required by the American Board of Surgery, and just recently, the American Board of Gynecology announced it's also required for gynecologists. Similarly, the FES is required before taking one's surgery board exams. FES now boasts nearly 2,000 certificates. And what's next? This year, SAGES, in collaboration with the ASMBS, has launched a program to teach and verify endoscopic skills among bariatric surgeons. SAGES continues to lead in surgical education and training. SAGES was founded as the Endoscopy Society, grew with minimally invasive surgery revolution. Most recently, SAGES has been the home for robotic enthusiasts. This year, in partnership with industry, SAGES is teaching robotic surgery to our MIS fellows. SAGES is committed to making proficient endoscopic, laparoscopic, and robotic surgeons. Now, it was Vince Lombardi who said, individual commitment to a group effort, that's what makes a team work well. And no surprise, it's the New England Patriots that have won the Lombardi Trophy 5 times. Now, in 2015, against the home team, the Seattle Seahawks, the game was won with a break of bad luck and an interception by Malcolm Butler. In 2017, the Patriots had the biggest comeback in all of Super Bowl history to beat Atlanta Falcons. This game showed that you make your own luck in every minute of every day. Unfortunately, against the Philadelphia Eagles, Brady's Hail Mary pass came up short. The Patriots are a great team who do best when luck is on their side. The most successful New York business tycoon and philanthropist of the 20th century, Andrew Carnegie, said, "Teamwork is the ability to work together toward a common vision, the ability to direct individual accomplishments toward organizational objectives. It is the fuel that allows common people to attain uncommon results." Traditionally, the surgeon has been described as the captain of the ship. But the good captain knows it's the crew that keeps the boat afloat. In 2011, SAGES president and surgical educator Jerry Freed published that surgical care is a team sport. Much has been written about human error and complex systems. But think, if we simply blame bad luck every time we have a bad outcome, we miss the opportunity to understand the root causes and learn from our mistakes. The Swiss cheese model explains that in the operating room, it usually takes 4 or 5 things to go wrong before we have a serious adverse outcome. Lord Aradarzi developed a model to study dynamics in the operating room using simulation. He brought OR teams into a simulated environment with a model of a bleeding femoral vessel. Dr. Richard Resnick, our 2018 Storrs lecturer yesterday, was one of the first to realize the importance of Darzy's work. He said, "The days of a slow ascent to competence through trial and error on real patients will not be part of our educational heuristics. The development and validation of simulated environments is critical." It was the American author Mark Twain who said, "Good judgment is the result of experience. Experience is the result of bad judgment." I have been intrigued by how simulation can make surgeons safer. In our mock operating room at BIDMC, we bring together surgeons, nurses, anesthesiologists to solve complex clinical scenarios. You greet the mannequin before you head into the mock OR. From behind the one-way mirror, events are programmed to go wrong. Afterwards, your team debriefs and discusses what went well and what could have been done better. We study technical evaluation, non-technical performance, and communication during a simulated crisis. Scenarios teach the use of checklists, speaking up, closed-loop communication. Through simulation, it is hoped that common mistakes and subsequent lawsuits can be avoided for wrong-site surgery, retained objects, and unrecognized blood loss. Individual surgeons hone technical skills in box trainers, partial trainers, and virtual workbenches. In mock operating rooms, we teach OR teams better communication. This should ultimately decrease error and increase patient safety. Simulation centers provide a safe place to practice solving problems. Learners can make mistakes, develop good judgment without harming patients. SAGES has many, many great teams. The executive board, the board, and we have 40 committees and over 700 members. The chairs and committees deserve much of the credit for our success this past year. Servanu Day, a good friend of mine, said, "Dan, in an email, SAGES is a terrific society. Members volunteer." I'd like to take a moment to highlight just a few of our many accomplishments together. Foremost, John Marks, Rob Lim, Leanne Feldman, you guys have put together an amazing educational program for our 16th World Congress of Endoscopic Surgery. Rob Lim told me this morning the only complaint he gets from you guys is you can't be in 3 rooms at once, and he says he's working on it. These same program directors and the program committee identified many of you as early adopters and with lots of talents. And so what we did this year is they created the I3 Summit. This dared to bring together innovators, inventors, and investors to advance surgery. The I3 Summit was a bold initiative and a great success. It's no surprise. This year we have a new record attendance with nearly 2,800 registrants. Sally and her team have done a fantastic job at getting everything organized. Now, SAGES members give back in many ways. I am most appreciative of the SAGES surgeons and family members who volunteered this week at Mary's Place, the Learning Center, Top Gun, and Mini Med School. Brett Matthews was actually cleaning toilets yesterday as the women supervised them. He did a great job. Earlier this year, a team went to Mexico to teach laparoscopic surgery and found themselves as the first responders to a devastating earthquake. SAGES members are making a difference in our communities and in our world. Earlier this year, the SAGES Leadership Development and Healthcare Policy Program was held in Boston. While nearly 250 members attended, an additional 2,000 members logged on through Facebook and Twitter for streaming video. One of the many outcomes of the leadership program is a new SAGES Mentors Match, which links new members with seasoned surgeons. This past year, SAGES also co-sponsored with SSAT a PG course for acute care surgeons. Now, to be honest, not everything this year went as well as we would have liked. After the American College of Surgeons produced a statement on firearm safety, we thought SAGES could do a better statement. In light of the different national tragedies, I felt SAGES could not be silent. While the statement passed the board and membership vote, many of you as members responded. The statement was either too watered down, not strong enough, or just not something SAGES should be doing. With over 6,500 members through our legislative guidelines and healthcare advocacy, SAGES has a voice today in seeking reimbursement, establishing guidelines, and shaping public policy. So I urge those of you who are interested, don't email me anymore. Get involved and get on these committees. As president, I declared this year to be the year for patient safety. And thank you very much for that wonderful video earlier. I mean, it was good. Tom Robinson, Jaso Lassie, Pascal Fuchshuber, and the Fundamental Use of Surgical Energy Committee, you have done a yeoman's job at getting surgeons certified. We have 100% of the SAGES executive board now FUSE certified, 90% of the board of governors, 80% of our chairs and co-chairs, and nearly 30% of our committee members, all passed. In anticipation of the World Congress, FUSE is translated into multiple languages, including French, Mandarin, Spanish, and Portuguese. I encourage all of you to log on to fusedidactic.org. Be one of the next 500 members to get FUSE certification for free this year. FUSE was the brainchild of Steve Schweitzberg only 6 years ago. Today, FUSE certification is mandated in France and several of our U.S. residency programs. In 2015, Danny Scott envisioned having all of SAGES educational materials readily available as part of our SAGES University. He too was frustrated he couldn't be in every room at every moment of the time during our annual meeting. This developed into the Curriculum Task Force, and the Curriculum Task Force developed the SAGES Master's Program. This is a disease-based program for acute care, bariatrics, biliary, colorectal, foregut, and hernia. There's technology pathways for flexible endoscopy and robotic surgery. The learner progresses from a competency to a proficiency to a mastery curriculum. Competency is geared for the surgeon just finishing fellowship. The proficiency curriculum is designed for the surgeon 2 or 3 years out in practice. The mastery curriculum, that requires a little extra work. The master's program integrates SAGES educational materials such as FLS, FES, Fuse, and SMART. The Facebook sites engage members to share video clips and comments. The master's program emphasizes data registries, mentoring, and coaching. The master's program embraces the concept of deliberate lifelong learning. To support the master's program, SAGES is investing several $100,000 in a new management system. This will make it easy to access the SAGES educational material after the meeting and track your educational activity. Now, it's not good enough to count on being lucky. SAGES as an organization has been thinking strategically. The WRS SAGES Task Force was challenged to sort of look at our identity and try to figure out, who are we? Are we meeting the needs of all of our membership? Do we have any blind spots? And what is the climate of our organization? Dana Tellum, Aaliyah Qureshi, Mike Edwards, and the WRS have taught us that what got us here won't get us there. As a maturing organization, if we want to continue to evolve and be relevant, we need to have competitive advantage of diversity. In the climate survey, 367 SAGES members responded. The overall satisfaction was good, 8 out of 10. 94% of our respondents said they had never experienced any bias within the organization. But I find it's the comments most telling of who we are. One member wrote, "For a society as large as SAGES, and for one that has grown very rapidly, I feel that SAGES is the best surgical society out there. Mostly because it's still forward-thinking, always looking for a future and innovating." Another member wrote, "SAGES is probably the most gender, race, and orientation neutral organization I've ever been in." And yet another member got it right. SAGES has a true soul. That is what makes it most attractive. The WRS survey found that SAGES had very positive climate. It identified key issues which will need to be attended to. We need to continue to keep attention on membership recruitment, committee engagement, advancement transparency, diversity awareness, leadership development, and formal mentorship. I got to be honest, as your president, I sometimes feel kind of happy-go-lucky, at least when it comes to our finances. And that's because we are all indebted to our predecessors who had the foresight and wisdom to create the SAGES Education and Research Foundation. Today, SAGES is fiscally sound. Member participation more than doubled this year from 11 to 26%. And a single donor this year made a pledge of $500,000 specifically to advance our educational initiatives. Please give me an applause to Dr. Pond. The future of our society is very bright, as long as our members continue to share their best ideas, volunteer their time, and invest in our society. On a personal note, I have many people I need to thank. I have been very fortunate to have been trained alongside giants in American surgery, both at Cornell, Washington University, UT Southwestern, and Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. I am indebted to my early role models. Nat Soper, Jim Fleshman, Mike Brunt, they were passionate about laparoscopy, and they made academic surgery fun. And they gave me many opportunities. Later, my friend and mentor, George Blackburn, he inspired me to work a little harder, think a little bigger, and do a little more. He'll be missed. I am indebted to many of you. At Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, we have a wonderfully creative research group, an incredibly dedicated bariatric multidisciplinary team. I am very proud of our past MIS fellows, many of whom are active in SAGES and academic surgery. It's my colleagues who make it possible for me to do all the things that I enjoy doing with SAGES, and I promise I'll take some more call next year. Before being defeated at Waterloo, Napoleon Bonaparte said, "I'd rather have a general who was lucky than who was good." Yet, we all know that if he was injured on the battlefield, I suspect he would want his surgeon to be both masterful and lucky. My father, as pointed out earlier, was a career Army officer. My son's in the U.S. Army Reserves. I am personally very thankful to the military surgeons who watch over our family members. For the last several years, SAGES has shown this gratitude by waiving the meeting registration for active duty military. This year, in addition, SAGES has established a travel fund to support our troops to attend future SAGES annual meetings. I encourage all of you to seek out and support this fund for our troops. At this time, I'd like all of our military surgeons from all countries to please stand. We thank you for your service. Most importantly, I need to thank my family. My mother, Grace, is here today from Las Vegas. April 13th was my father's birthday. My father, Colonel Wendell Jones, is here with me in spirit. He often would joke, "You don't get to choose your parents." Yet, as you all saw, I'm very blessed with how it all turned out. My parents instilled in me the belief that I could do anything with hard work, if only lucky enough to have the opportunity. A best friend is like a four-leaf clover, hard to find, lucky to have. I feel particularly lucky every day with Stephanie, my best friend of 28 years. My family has never quite figured out how to keep up with the Joneses, and we are the Joneses. We have never found work-life balance. Instead, we have sought work-life integration. Stephanie comes to the SAGES and has done 5K walks, built homes for the Habitat for Humanity, guided students enrolled in mini medical school, and participated on Fuse as an anesthesiologist. Back in 1995, I remember Phil Schauer and I. We were two young members of SAGES pushing the strollers as our wives were walking at our sides. A decade later, we had Ryan, Kara, and Leah competing at Top Gun with kids with Butch Rosser. After spending last summer with SAGES members Denise G. and Daniel Hashimoto, our daughter, Kara, number 13, now boasts a SAGES poster and a dream to become a surgeon. SAGES is my extended family, created by the love of Barbara and George Bursey, Sally Matthews, Gerald Marks, and others. We enjoy each other's company. We value the relationships. Earlier this week, the SAGES Foundation recognized Barbara Bursey with the Distinguished Service Award. Much of SAGES' success as an organization is because of our culture. Barbara, more than anyone else, has fostered our culture of innovation, excellence, service, respect for others. No other surgical organization has replaced formal handshakes with so many hugs, high fives, and fist bumps. Barbara, you're a SAGES star. Congratulations on SAGES' highest honor. Every year at the SAGES Sing-Off, we conclude the social program with the song, "We are the world, we are the SAGES. We are the ones to make a brighter day, so let's start treating." There's a choice we are making, we're saving patients' lives. It's true we'll make a brighter day, just you and me. Later tonight, all of you will be invited to sing at the gala, led by our Japanese friends. I hope each of you will join in, lock arms, and sing along. As SAGES president, it's been an honor to work with so many bright, creative, motivated colleagues. When SAGES proposes new concepts, devices, and operations, SAGES teams advance surgery. SAGES welcomes all, values diversity, embraces change, seeks disruptive technologies, and creates opportunities, especially for the younger surgeons. It's been exciting for me as president to know the individuals, the teams, and the organization up close. We do not mint enough SAGES coins to recognize all the extraordinary things you guys are doing. Let me not forget that surgery is a team sport. SAGES teams tap the strengths of individuals working toward a common goal. As surgeons, we seek to cure disease, alleviate suffering, and mentor the next generation of surgeons. When we are at our best, we build teamwork with a winning attitude, trust, respect, and love. Working together, there is no limit to what a SAGES team can achieve with innovation, passion, persistence, and a little luck. So remember, to be lucky in life, maximize your choice opportunities, listen to your lucky hunches, expect good fortune to turn bad luck into good. If you are lucky, what you love loves you back. As I pass along the SAGES baton, how lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard. Good luck, and thank you.